This is Mohammad Attebai from Iran. I'm involved in distribution, production, teaching, and writing.
Okay, good. So let's start with the words you mentioned. How does distribution in Iran works nowadays?
When I'm talking about distribution, I meant actually international distribution of
International distribution.
Iranian films, yes,
Okay.
not inside Iran.
Okay. So tell me a bit about that. How does that work? How you can, let's say, promote an Iranian film outside the country?
Not easy, of course, because I remember when I was studying at the college, I was dreaming of being a filmmaker. So there was a very well-known film foundation in Iran called Farabi Cinema Foundation, and very simply I referred and said that I'm studying cinema and I've already learned English, so you may need someone in your international affairs. And my main goal was to go there because and becoming a filmmaker, because Farabi Cinema Foundation, like Greek Film Center, is involved in different aspects of supporting Iranian cinema. And I was thinking that, okay, I did it and I made a trick. But after a couple of months, I totally changed my mind and not being a filmmaker, but I started promoting Iranian cinema internationally. And those years were actually the early years of success of Iranian cinema with filmmakers like Abbas Kiarostami, Mohsen Makhmalbaf. So we were a group of very young people at that office. I still remember some of my best years in my life. Then after a couple of months, after actually studying a lot about how it is, because there was no one to tell me that what to do, what not to do, something like that. But we were lucky that we were subscribed, I remember, to Variety and Screen International, Hollywood Reporter, Film Comment, many of these periodicals. And for a couple of months I started to study everything, reading everything, and then they appointed me as the person in charge of promoting and sending and selecting Iranian films for international film festival. And at that time, Farabi, everything was centralized at Farabi Cinema Foundation. I mean that mostly all film producers and even the state-run institutes provided their productions to us, and all Iranian films were promoting through one channel, Farabi Cinema Foundation. Then there were, after 8-9 years, something like that, that we had great years, I should say. There were some political changes in the country, and the right wing took over, and I resigned. And in 1997, I established my company, which is more like a label rather than a company, Iranian Independence. And I started again promoting Iranian films internationally, but I focused just on independent productions. So not even one single film connecting to the government or any state body has been in my career during all these years, 28, 29 years. And after a couple of years, I decided just to focus on the young talents. So I started to discover the young talents in Iranian cinema that fortunately there were a lot and still a good number.
And you cooperated with Kiarostami, right?
Yeah, I was lucky to work with mostly all Iranian prestigious filmmakers, including Abbas Kiarostami, who was a great friend, like my father. Really, we had a very, very close relationship. And I do remember that I started promoting Where is the Friend's House, and then the trilogy, I mean, and then Close Up, and I think Taste of Cherry was his very first film, which was outside Farabi and through the other company, mostly by MKADO in France.
So that era was like kind of the golden era of Iranian cinema. All the big names were there: Panahi, Mohammad Kiarostami. So how did this thing happen? Well, why did you think this era took place? Let's say, was it just chance or?
I cannot actually say chance because, firstly, there was a policy. I mean, in Iran, you cannot think of any kind of, let's say, strategy or teamwork, things like this. I mean, everything is happening through individuals. So the managing director of Farabi Cinema Foundation, a man called Mr. Sayyid Mohammad Beheshti, he was the guy who is considered as the architect of Iranian new cinema. And he was the guy who supported the national productions, because you should imagine that soon after the revolution, most of the pre-revolutionary filmmakers were not allowed. Of course, the authors like Kiarostami, Merjui, Amir Nadiri, many could make their films, but there was no productions and no production companies daring to produce any film. So Farabi started to do that, and firstly, Farabi itself financed and produced some films in order to let the other filmmakers and producers please come and start do that. And then the production started, and it was more and more every year, and we were supporting the productions by all means, like bank loans, by equipments, film tools, everything. Of course, there were limitations, censorship alongside all these, no doubt, but we could see that Iranian national cinema grew. I do remember in the first years that when we were sending and submitting films from Iran, it was strange time. There was no, of course, internet, no fax, and we had a telegram machine, which belonging to the World War II. Believe it. It was a machine like from there up to here, 3 meters, and it was. We were joking, of course, about that. It's belonging to the Nazis, and then we were just communicating through this telegram machine. It was funny, and before that, even we were just sending letters, by post. And the first year, out of, I don't know, 400, 500 letters that we sent to film festivals around the world, maybe there were 1 or 2 or 3 answered our letters. And then through the telegram, they were saying that, is there any cinema in Iran at all? They could not believe that in post-revolutionary Iran, there would be any film industry, whatever. So,
what age is this? What date?
Let's say 84, 85, 86, yeah. But there were some films that turned to be very successful, like Amir Nadiri's The Runner, Bahram Beizai, Bashu, The Little Stranger, and then Abbas, Where is the Friend Home? And interesting enough, all of these were produced by Kanun. Kanun is a very well-known institute for intellectual development of children and young adults, which was established in 1960s, and they started to actually publish books, and they could raise a generation. Many of Iranian film artists, and generally artists, have grown up through Qanun libraries, Qanun theaters, Qanun movies. And even Abbas himself was the guy who established the film office at the Qanun Institute. So, yeah, step by step, they thought, okay, there are some films in Iran. And all of a sudden, as you very rightly called, we had this, we call it in Iran, and especially among ourselves, those who were involved in this promotion, we call it the golden decade of Iranian cinema, which was, let's say, from 1987 up to 1997. That there were some of the best films produced in Iran. All now, after 30 years, we can really and seriously call them, some of them can be really cult movies. And then all these filmmakers were introduced to the festivals, got awards, and then we started to selling the films. So at that time, by the end of golden age of Farabi, we had an established cinema. That then most of us resigned after these changes of political wings, and I went through my own way, establishing this company label, which was quite difficult because the authorities from the beginning assuming that contacting any international festival, any international institute, even any foreigner would mean something. They were very suspicious toward anything that I remember in the first years I had to fight. Really, I had to fight in order to prove that I'm not a spy of the foreign people, that's merely working on this international field, because international area belonging to the government. So all of a sudden, a guy, individual, he himself, no one else, nothing, started to do that. So there were many pressures from the beginning. But I kept going.
Well, you still have the company, right? It's still
still the company, and but I really insist that more than a company is just a circle of Iranian. But in the past few years, especially in the past 10 years, there were more and more people involved in international promotion of Iranian cinema. Younger generation come. And long story that maybe in your next question I can answer more.
Okay. But I was wondering to ask, what is the situation right now? However, how would you describe?
Well, it's very complicated because I can say that after some political upheavals and demonstrations, especially in 2009, there were some serious changes in the society, and artists were not excluded, of course, and people were expecting something else from art. An art should reflect what is really happening in the society. So there was a big split between the artist and the government since then. And the worst was that there were more limitations and censorships even comparing to the previous years. So being an independent, becoming, of course, something really difficult. And in Iran, when you are asking an authority, they say that there is no independent cinema in Iran. It does not exist. They are keep denying, because they say whatever is made in Iran is supported by and financed by the government, directly or indirectly, which is not right. During these past 10 years at least, and I can say we have three different kinds of cinema movies. Firstly, those films which are still financed and supported by state bodies, and these productions are mostly propaganda films, films commissioned by the government to some filmmakers. That I believe it's actually a source of corruption too. I do not say everyone's corrupted, of course, but we can see that they have big budgets, and usually these budgets dedicated to their, as we say, the insiders. I mean, those who are somehow related and connected to the regime. And the results are actually tragic, because these films are not quality films. No doubt that none of these films can be sent abroad in the festivals or in the international markets, neither at home. They are not selling. People do not go to the movie theater to watch these films. So there is a huge amount of money which is spent for these insiders, and making films just to consider it as something like a reports of these directors, managers, authorities to their higher ranking people in the regime. So the second kind of cinema is private cinema, private movies, which are whether the commercial comedies, which are made by producers, and these comedies are actually running the film industry like anywhere, and always the top 10 is belonging to these comedies, but unfortunately not quality comedies at all. And alongside these comedies, we have some social dramas that year by year it's been changed. And I will tell you how. Whether there are very low budget social political dramas financed by the filmmakers themselves, or by some, let's say, financiers who are usually outside the film circle. They have other businesses that wish to make a name through the cinema, for instance. And these kind of movies were actually films that has promoted Iranian cinema, at least in the past 15 years. And the third kind of cinema started about, seriously, it exists before, but as a trend and movement, it started since Mahsa movement 3-4 years ago. And we now have a kind of cinema which is called underground cinema. And these are guys who are whether Iranian filmmakers living in Iran, who are making films, and they do not get any kind of screening or production permits at all. Therefore, they are not following the rules, and you can see that, for instance, the actresses do not cover themselves with hijab, or they are dealing with some hot topics, political topics, or another movies partly made by Iranian filmmakers living in diaspora. They are whether coming to Iran, making films in secret, or even trying to make films with Iranian story, Iranian characters, Iranian actors outside Iran, like The Holy Spider made by Ali Abbasi. And in the past 5 years, I can very seriously saying that these kind of movies have dominated the market, international market. And whatever you see, for instance, the movie that maybe you watched last night
Yes,
and here in competition is actually an underground movie. So in the past 4 or 5 years, in all major festivals, have selected Iranian underground movies, not say the official ones. That it is sad because there are also filmmakers who are very independent and they are actually fighting and fighting in order to push forward all limitations. And their fault is that they are living in Iran. And because there are really some serious debates among the outsiders and insiders. And those who are living outside Iran, many of them actually accusing Iranian filmmakers who are living inside that you are collaborating with the regime. But the only collaboration is that some of them trying to get a production permit, nothing more than that. They do not get any kind of financing or support, whatever. So that's the difference. And but
as a whole, how many movies would you say are being produced nowadays in Iran? All three of the sections you mentioned.
well, I can say that the average of feature films, not counting the documentaries, feature documentaries, are between 100 up to 120 feature films produced in Iran every year. That about 10 are made by these underground filmmakers.
And I also read that there's also a vibrant TV movie industry, like a lot of TV productions are being made, feature movies just for TV. Is that happening or no?
In the past, it happened a lot, but not anymore. Because if you mean that if Iranian TV, which is actually state-run TV, IRIB, firstly, they are quite bankrupt. I mean that there is no audience for Iranian TV at all. And so whatever they are producing, like series or shows, talk shows, anything, there are less and less audience viewers for such things. The only things which are seen by the people are mostly the football matches, because there is no other way. It's just this national TV which is broadcasting these football matches. But I mean, defining B movies is different in Iran comparing to the other countries. So, of course, we have mainstream for sure. As I said, it's comedies. Maybe somehow we can consider all these independent, low-budget movies as B movies, somehow.
And your label is more involved with the underground and the diaspora films? Or?
No, I'm not working with diaspora filmmakers that much. It did not happen. But you may be surprised that I would say that I do not like most of these underground movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and because for me, I mean, in my mind, I have no line between the official productions or underground productions, things like this. I do not. For me, movies should actually enjoy cinematic values, qualities, aesthetics. So one hand, I'm really happy that I can see some films like last night movies or Rasulov films, things like this are made. But the other hand, I am sad because as an Iranian, I can feel actually the shortcomings. I can see. I mean, even through the cinematic point of view, I have many criticism on most of these films.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I do not mean that I would not get or support or work on any underground films. No, not at all. For me, there is no difference. But I didn't find any good films that I would like, simply.
Okay. Okay. And you have been going to Cannes for decades, as you mentioned the last few days. How has that festival changed through the years, would you say? Or has it changed? Cannes?
Yeah, fortunately, I used to travel a lot. Now I'm old and I cannot that much go to the festivals. Yeah, but for Cannes and Venice, I've always attended in the past 30, 34, 5 years, and Berlinale time to time, but, and the other festivals too, like Tallinn, that I like it a lot, and I go there, and I'm one of their programmers. But Cannes has changed a lot, yes, and I myself and many of our colleagues are not satisfied with Cannes and the way it's going. Of course, Cannes is very successful. Cannes is at the top, and there is a big distance between Cannes and the other film festivals, like even Venice or Berlin, no doubt. But you can see that there are more, there are stronger, much stronger sponsors in the festivals, much stronger media in the festivals. And they are mostly looking for the well-known names. So every year, I'm sure that you and many people can predict that which films would be in Cannes. And if you would make a list, I'm sure that 70-80% of that list would be selected in Cannes. So it means something. It means that Cannes is mostly getting the films from his own circle of filmmakers. So there are Cannes filmmakers, and it means that there are less discoveries. When there is less discovery, so they are not looking for new talents. That I believe that one of the main roles of the festival is to discover new talents. That this is less happening in Cannes.
And how is your programming work in Tallinn? Let's say, how does it work? How do you select films? Let's say, what are you searching for the films you select?
Well, in Tallinn, actually, I'm mostly trying to promote Iranian cinema. As I did for 10 years, I was also under contract by Biennale, and I was their correspondent for Iranian cinema. That I can say during that decade, 10 years, we really had a strong presence of Iranian cinema at Venice Film Festival. Of course, I'm submitting other films, especially from Asia, but I'm focusing on Iranian films. But the sad point is that, firstly, because of more censorship and limitations by the authorities, there are less quality films in Iran officially produced. I should confess this. But of course, there are some still good films by new talents, young people. That the sad part is that these filmmakers are ignored totally by the film festivals and markets and distribution companies. They are very much under pressure and influence of the media, and media, because of all these political happenings, are promoting underground movies. So when it comes to some films like Mohammad Rasulov films, so any festival, any part of the world does not dare, not to select this film. So no matter what is the quality, it's another issue, but it's like this. I mean, the most successful Iranian films are these films, underground films, selected by Sundance, then Rotterdam and Berlin, Cannes, Carlo Vivari, Locarno, Venice, Toronto, San Sebastian, like this. And then the rest of the festival in the world, unfortunately, that I'm sorry to use this expression, are just copy and paste.
And how would you describe the level of the actors nowadays in Iran?
It's an interesting question because time to time we can see that there are really a good generation of actresses. That the actresses are much better than actors. And in the past few years, we have a generation of better actors now, comparing to the actors. But in general, I think that actors are really one of the fields that Iranian cinema should be proud of. That, I believe. Maybe we should maybe refer to some specific films, for instance, but like this. But even those actors who immigrated, like Golshifte Farahani or Zar Amir Ebrahimi, who are very successful now, that they have been successful. I mean, if you compare, because we always say that almost none of Iranian filmmakers, film directors immigrated, made any good films. Even those established filmmakers who have a chance to make a film in the other cities, like even Abbas, who made Certified Copy in Italy, or that film Lover in Japan, or Asghar, who made The Pass in France, or Everybody Knows in Spain. These films are not as much successful or strong as the other films they made in Iran. But as for the actors, we can see that at least for these two names, that these two girls have been very successful, and they have been involved, especially Golshifte, who has been involved in some serious productions. And also there are actresses in Iran like Leila Hatemi, who is a great actress, and I'm sure that you will see Trans Malik new film in Cannes, that Leila
is
part of
was doing.
yeah. Leila is part of the movie, and she's a great actress. But apart from actors and let's say the directors, I believe that Iranian cinema is boasting of DOPs. In my opinion, Iranian DOPs are now the best part of the Iranian cinema. The best.
Okay.
Even better than filmmakers and actors.
Okay. I think maybe this is an international thing. I think DOPs now, it's a great era for DOPs.
Yeah.
So I guess last question, and I feel I know the answer for what we have been talking, but in general, are you optimistic about the future of Iranian cinema?
As I'm not optimistic about the Iran at the first, so I cannot be optimistic for Iranian cinema at all. No, for years when I'm watching films throughout the year, and then I make a package of films that I want to work on it, and this package would be completed, let's say, by October, November for the next year. This year, exceptionally, believe it or not, I could not find, although I've seen many films, I could not find even one single movie that I would work on it. Just a documentary, which is very good, but a feature fiction, nothing, which is very sad, very sad. I've seen about 50 feature films so far. I didn't find any. And I know that's the same for my other colleagues who are working in this area. And therefore, I believe that 2025 would be again a worse year for Iranian cinema internationally. Last year, I mean, at least for those films produced in Iran. This year, I'm sure that Jafar Panahi's new film would be in Cannes. We all can imagine. And also the other filmmaker, Said Rustai, that you may know, that he is now shooting his film. So he would be the next filmmaker that we should expect him to be there. And no more. Unfortunately, no more. Maybe there would be some underground films that it's always happening, that all of a sudden coming out, found out that, oh, there was a movie like this made in Iran. We don't know, but if you compare this year with even last year, it is really sad, because last year, for instance, in Sundance, we had at least, I think, 3 films. This year, we had just one documentary. In Rotterdam, we had, I think, 4, 5, 6 movies last year. This year, we had just one. Mm-hmm. In Berlinale, it's tragic, and there is just one Iranian short film in the selection, no more. So that's the beginning of the year, and not good news for Iranian cinema.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it.
Thank you.